You're ready.
All right. All right. This is Kill You Last. I'm Peter Guarraci.
I'm Alex Bashera.
And you are not looking at my evil twin. That's my little brother, Robert Guarraci, by Zoom, finally coming on. What's up, Rob?
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Nice,
so,
nice to officially meet you, Robert.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Rob?
I mean-
Rob? Is it Rob?
I go by Rob. Yeah.
Rob. We're gonna go with Rob.
you can, Alex, you've heard this story. Like, Rob named the podcast.
Yeah.
I
Heard a lot
I
about
texted him about this idea for a podcast, and I was like, I can't come up with a name. And he immediately texted me back, why don't you call it Kill You Last?
Yeah.
So we've been waiting for the moment to finally do the movie where Kill You Last comes from. So
I know. Well, originally I was living in Chicago, so we were waiting for a time when I could do this in person, and look at us now. So didn't quite work out that way anyway.
yeah, all three of us. I mean, I was in Jersey 3 hours ago.
I'm in Jersey right now.
Yeah.
This is the new. This is the new normal. So, Rob, are you like? I remember watching this movie 1,000 times with you. Is this one of your like? Do you remember watching this movie? Being forced to watch this movie a lot when you were a kid?
Being forced, no. Like, this was my jam when I was a kid. And it's ridiculous because I recently rewatched it and I realized that my fond memories of this movie were like 20% of what actually happened, and I blacked out all the other stuff that was just stupid and ridiculous.
What's your fond memories?
Like, I think I was thinking of it like just the gear, like everything that he drives a bulldozer into a surplus store, and there's a secret room in the back that has everything. And before that, he had a secret tool shed, whatever. As ridiculous as that is, I think like later on in life, like The Matrix, like was badass. Like getting your gear together going in was almost cooler than like the actual like fight scenes. And I think it started with Commando because there's just like everything, even to the cheesy part where he's some reason in a Speedo rowing a inflatable raft.
What an excuse to get Mr. Olympian naked.
Yeah,
or
right?
almost naked. I mean, it's such a funny scene too because it's like towards the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And you haven't really seen his body. Yeah, I mean, you've seen his arms. He's like fucking jacked the whole movie. But it's just a cut scene. It's like they're in the plane, and then they're out of the plane, and he's half naked. Like, there's no explanation. There's no, like, they don't have to, like, explain it. They just go, here he is.
Yeah,
He's
well, like, were those tactical underwear that he got at the surplus store with that with the rocket launcher?
They have to be. He has
You know what's funny is I've talked about this like a bunch. Like those are my favorite parts of these movies too. Like at the same year this is the same year that Rambo First Blood Part 2 came out. Yeah. And the scene where he's getting his gear ready in that movie is my favorite scene in that movie. And that's the scene when they show it on TV that they cut out to save a minute on television editing. And it's funny because I tweeted the other day because I watched Commando 3 times in the last 2 weeks. And I was
a quick hour and a half.
Just on. I just have it on. I'm not like
watched it 3 times in the last 2 weeks.
I'm not studying it. I just have it on in the background. But this is how I know I got old. Is that I remember watching that scene of him getting all the guns and everything. I'm like, that's so rad. This time around, I'm like, he just put on brand new army pants in the heat. He didn't wash those or nothing. He's just gonna walk around in You ever try on brand new army pants? They're stiff. Like you can't wear those.
No, but he
first time out.
The water. No, but it's just I think like those were the fond memories because then actually watching the action scene, like the big finale at the end, is so laugh out loud bad. Especially like nowadays, I think like there's realism in video games and realism in like movies, and it's like, all right, these guys are elite and they're trained and they're better. And in this movie, he's a commando who's standing in the middle of an open field while 90 people are running at him on top of buildings, in the brushes, everything. And he's just going side to side and mowing them down. And it's like, when I was a little kid, it was like, well, he's good and they're not. And that's why that scene works.
Right. No, you're exactly right. Like, even I am not someone into war strategy games or anything, and even I was just going like, if I was playing Grand Theft Auto right now, I wouldn't have left myself so open. He is in the middle of a field surrounded by like army level artillery, just like totally exposed, and he doesn't get hit once. It's not even close.
There was one scene where the guy was like hiding and waiting to pop out in a hallway, and then the guy still gets the jump on him, pops out and starts shooting. and Arnold is able to take a quarter turn and square up with the guy and then shoot him. Like,
Yeah.
He's
a
the
man,
hero.
Arnold. The only person who got one bullet was from Bennett, that badass Bennett.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he's a little laughable too.
This
Jesus.
movie it's 1985, so this is the movie that really is the template for the 80s action movie.
Yeah.
Like 80, like you had like Schwarzenegger did the Terminator movie and he did Conan, but this is really the movie that like is the template for Arnold Schwarzenegger as an action star.
Peter,
And
I gotta
he
ask
did-
you. Can you stop hitting the table?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's fucking infuriating.
And it- you know,
it's
this-
just
and-
it's you just hear it. It's like people are gonna get very annoyed.
And it's funny because Rambo, I actually wrote this in my phone. Rambo became an action star. Schwarzenegger was born into it.
Yeah.
Like Rambo started as like a real movie, like a real drama, and then it became like the First Blood is a real like great dramatic film.
Sorry, I thought you meant like Stallone started that way, not
That's what I thought.
Rambo.
Well, that-
I was
but
like,
al- but
no,
also
sorry,
that-
porn star.
But also that's true too. Like Stallone, with Rocky and like he was doing movies and stuff. By 85 he became this like action star. Schwarzenegger was just always
He was a robot, and then he was a guy with ridiculously hilarious one-liners in his action debut.
Which it's
Or he was
there's
a guy
a
with
lot
a
of
sword. Yeah, like-
funny shit in this. I mean the whole Kill You
yeah.
Last. It was so funny going back and rewatching those scenes because I've heard it on our theme song 100 times now, and now
Yeah.
to go back and actually it was actually weird, especially the when he drops Sully and you hear the screaming, like it was kind of jarring to actually hear it back in the movie.
Doesn't it sound so fake? It sounds
Yeah.
like it,
Oh, yeah.
because I've heard it a million times, not in that context. It's just part of our intro theme. It was so out of place to hear it. I could tell how just obviously fake that scream was. Like, I don't know. There was just no effort into like he's falling into like what, a canyon?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like that at all.
I mean,
It's crazy.
they pulled things off in this movie that were just so laugh out loud funny.
Yeah.
Like the telephone pole, so Sully's car flips and then it's perfectly fine. But the other red car like goes full speed and crashes into a telephone pole.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's a cutscene and then they're just sitting there perfectly fine. I'm like, that little woman would have gone through the windshield and off the cliff.
They hit it going about 95 miles an hour head on, and it's not even a cutscene. They show the car colliding, and then Arnold sticks his right arm out. And he goes, "Are you okay?" And she's fine. She's not even sweating. Like,
Yeah, that should have really set me up for the fact that bullets wouldn't work against him either.
How about the fact that your intro to Arnold is him carrying a tree? Like that's
Oh, yeah.
telling you everything that you need to know about the movie.
I actually rolled my eyes the minute I turned this movie
man.
on because I didn't know I hadn't seen it before. So I'm watching it and I know what it's gonna be generally about, and I know it's in our intro theme and all that. And I've seen clips. And just watching the intro montage of him carrying logs, I was like, oh man. But then
Wait,
the
so
movie
Alex,
got
this was your
better,
first time
like,
watching it this week?
for sure.
No
Oh, yeah.
shit.
Oh yeah.
Man.
I saved it. I saved it because I knew we were gonna do this, and I wanted it to be the first time I watched it.
That's wild. Yeah, this movie was a big. I mean, I have the Blu-ray now, but so this past year was the first time like watching it in probably 20 years. But I watched it, I don't know, probably 100 times.
Yeah, this was in a very small rotation of movies that I watched all the time too.
Rob,
And,
do you remember when we? Because I remember like I guess it's interesting like how your memory can trick you. When we were little, like was it just whatever popped up on TV that we just watched these movies 100 times, or?
I don't know if this is one that I would have just popped up. This might have been one that was like recorded on a VHS. So it was like somehow either it was, I don't know, on like a late night premiere, and they still probably didn't show everything, but like we had it recorded. I don't think I ever saw like a Commando actual like case or cover or anything.
Yeah, no, it was because like Channel 11 was big for me when I was a kid, and there was always these movies. But there are ones that definitely stand out. Like Empire Strikes Back, I had on VHS.
Yeah.
Back to the Future, I had on VHS. But yeah, I mean, 'cause Robert is 9 years younger than me, so obviously his experience of this. but I try to be.
I was asking him before the sorry to cut you off. I was asking him before the show started. When you walked away, I was like, "Weird, are you the older or younger brother?"
Oh no,
because you were struggling with technology as you do, and he was like, "Do you always?" And Rob over here was like, "Do you always have to deal with this?" And I was like, absolutely, and so I was curious to see if he was and I was like, he was like, let's save it for the pod, and we're going to. So 9 years younger. That I wouldn't have guessed. You seem closer in age than that. Whether it's that you guys both look in your 30s, I would say Peter somehow, despite both of you guys, despite being bald, you still look younger.
Thanks.
Especially Peter.
Yeah,
being like 41 now.
Yeah, it's Peter's stress-free lifestyle. That's really
but your responsibility will do this.
Allowed him to keep that youth, whereas I'm the younger but more responsible, boring older brother.
I love that. I love that. No, so wow, it's interesting. So wait, what year were you born then, Rob?
88.
88. So you were born after this movie came out.
Yeah.
But you guys still watched it together. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Someone must have taped it.
Yeah, no, it has to be, because realistically, like, Pete was heading off to college when I was 9 years old. So,
wow.
Yeah, so you figure, I mean, probably other than like summers and other stuff, but I definitely got exposed to it, and then it was, in the rotation to watch all the time. Like Big Trouble in Little China is, again, I don't think something I picked up on my own. So
Peter, you just corrupted your younger brother. I mean, like, you definitely molded him into an 80s action movie fan. I mean, if I know you at all.
But also, like, we watched Hitchcock movies together. We watched Kubrick. I introduced you to Kubrick and all that kind of stuff. I was very much like, oldest of four, like, loud Italian household. Mm-hmm. I would go hide and watch movies a lot to have, like, my quiet time. But then with Rob, I would introduce him to, I would have, Rob, watch this, and it would be The Shining or Barry Lyndon or something like that. Something weird
because
that I liked.
Especially because most of the other times, like, I was too young to watch anything else, right? Like, I'm the youngest of four, and the next is 5 years older. So, like, they would be allowed to watch something, and, like, I wouldn't. I remember, like, the whole family watching Last of the Mohicans, and I, like, tried to, like, sneak in during one of the scenes, and it's like this one memory of, like, seeing this one scene of, like, Last of the Mohicans before I was kicked out. And now, like, that's one of my favorite movies, and I've watched that more times than Commando. And it's like, when the family watched that movie, I was too young.
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
it's also one of my favorite. We didn't do Less Than Mohicans on here, did we?
No,
we should do it.
I know, because I've never seen it. So.
Maybe if I get invited back.
Yeah,
that would be another one to do. I fucking love that movie.
And the similarity for both of them, as ridiculous it is completely misplaced music that just works. Right. So Last of the Mohicans theme, like, how a good movie, like, I used to joke about this with my one friend, like, like, it's good from that era is, like, it just has a song that they play a couple different, like, versions and speeds throughout the whole movie. And, like, Last of the Mohicans is this like Scottish, like, Highland song that they're playing while they run through the woods. And then in Commando, it's like steel drums and saxophone. What was
that music?
When he's first walking through the woods with the log, it's just steel drums. I'm like, what the?
So that's interesting. So that guy, the composer is James Horner, who went on to, like, win Oscars and to do, like, a bunch of. I think he did Titanic.
Okay.
And a bunch of other. I think So he's, like, responsible for, like, the highest grossing movie score of all time. But this movie, it's like. Again, I took it. I actually watched it today, took a nap, and woke up to that music playing.
Yeah,
it's intense. It's odd. It is odd.
And then it's funny because at the very end of the movie, there's just at the very, very end for the credits, there's just one, like, hair metal band song for no reason. They didn't play one regular rock song the entire movie.
Not at all.
And then you're gonna close the movie and just play some bullshit, like, hair metal song.
Because he does that look back to the general to say, like, never again or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you need that, whatever, walk off into the sunset, into the babe's arms, like, whatever scene. I guess steel drums didn't work.
Yeah. Another thought I had watching it today, and I actually was Googling it. So, and I've brought him up before, but this is, like, Joel Silver is the producer who's responsible for a lot of these movies.
I notice his name now.
Because
you always point him out.
And he's been parodied. Like, if you watch Tropic Thunder, like, the Tom Cruise character is basically Joel Silver.
Okay, gotcha.
And if you watch True Romance, the producer that he sells the luggage of cocaine to, like that's basically Joel Silver too.
Okay.
So this guy, and so the thought I had watching this movie today is this movie wasn't so much written and directed as it was produced. Like they said, you know what, we have Arnold Schwarzenegger, we're going to make him into a star. Let's just, get a director and a writer to put something together, and we'll just work to Arnold's strengths. And I mean, to this day, I don't know the fucking name of the director or the writer, and that's my thing, is knowing who the screenwriters and the directors are.
Yeah, always.
But like, I'm not the movie buff that like Peter is. Like, I go down an IMDb rabbit hole every once in a while, but like, it's just the attention span for that moment. Like, I don't link this all together and remember it. Yeah. But like, just thinking about that, but like what writers would need to do to make it. And I just like multiple times was like, if I wrote this script today, you would be like laughed out of anything major. Like, this would be like, I'd fail like creative writing class in
high school. Yeah. This would not pass high school.
But it does have, I mean, to me, my favorite part was always up until he got to the island.
Yeah.
And that is the best stuff, because that's really the cool. I mean, you have two of my favorite, like Sully and is David Patrick Kelly is one of my fucking all-time favorites. He's the Kill You Last guy. Yep. He's great in like 5-minute scene, and he's great in everything he does. Yep. And then the black guy is Bill Duke, another one of my all-time favorites.
He's good in this. He's actually really good in this.
He's in Predator. He's like a big, imposing guy who's
scary.
Yeah, he also has gone on to like direct movies and stuff. And
dude, his eyes freak me. Is it just me? His eyes are so large. There's something about his eyes.
He's somebody that just standing there silently is so imposing. Like, has such an unbelievable screen presence.
He looks like he could just stare at a truck and it would explode.
The truck would stop.
Something bad would happen. Yeah,
but that's a good point, Pete. And I think that goes like how much of this movie I forgot. There are so many like smaller action-packed scenes before it gets to the island. Like, I think I remembered like him escaping the plane, and then he got to the mall, and then he got the guns, and then he went to the island, and like. There was so much more like on second watch of like him like going to the hotel room and having like a fight to the death there, and then they go to like the aircraft hangar and he's like going through like this whole army surplus like warehouse. It's like all these things. I missed that part. Like,
he almost goes to jail. They have him in the, and then she
somehow figures out how to use a bazooka.
She has a rocket launcher and she shoots it backwards the first time.
Yeah,
so she didn't know what she was doing.
She was a badass though.
Yeah,
she wasn't just
great.
like a damsel in distress, right?
No,
no. Getting shit done, blowing up.
One of my favorite things is he looks. So they break into the hangar and they're trying to figure out where his daughter's hidden, and he sees the map. And he basically like figures out like, is it the straight line from here to the island? That must be.
Yeah,
I have many problems with how he knows where he's going. This
11 longitude.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's like he looks at the map. He goes longitude, and then it's like, what are you talking about?
You're inviting the audience in to understand what's going on. Longitude. You remember that word?
It was like, wait. What? And then they literally, I mean, you could use some exposition? Yeah, exposition to explain how he knows where he's going. Every step he takes is the right step somehow, but it makes no sense. There's no logic. It must be this island because there's a map here at this location that we're at now. I mean, it's all just so. And then when he gets to the island, he just gets off and he knows exactly where to row.
That was another part, but it wasn't even that. It was like he got off and then he's like all the way like a mile away looking through binoculars at the camp, and then 4 minutes later he's blowing it up, and you're like, I thought there was like time pressure and they were going to find out any second that the daughter was gone. But it all worked. It was
another favorite like Arnold moment is at the beginning when he goes to the Bronco. He a good director would have him go to the Bronco, look in the hood, and go, all right, clearly the engine is no good. But he pulls up the wires.
Yeah, what is that?
He's got to show us.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. I was like, wait. So this car has a bunch of wires in the front?
Yeah, what did they do? Did they take the entire engine out? Like, what did they do?
Sorry, go on.
I'm just saying, like, You get the point. Like,
So
obviously
crazy.
the car is out of commission, but like the holding of the wires to like really hammer home what's going on is hilarious.
It is hilarious to watch some of the stuff that's, you know, you if you're a real serious person and you take your life super seriously and everything you watch has to make perfect sense. I mean, you're probably a complete bore, but I mean, I would understand why you would hate this movie if that is your. But you have to be able to watch this and go, this is fantastic for how silly and how much they didn't care about like making it logical, like at all.
Yeah, and it's even like it's so amazing because it like I thought that they were going to care at first, like him like smelling the bad guys, him hearing the helicopter before it came, and then him smelling the bad guys, and that's how he knew to like get in the house when they ambushed him. Was like, oh, this guy's a badass. Like he can like taste like evil in the air, and then to go to like just the ridiculous shit he was doing was like, nah, never mind. This is like, you know, it's just whatever. He's invincible, and it's awesome. But I think like rewatching that beginning, I almost like got tricked into thinking that they were going to make him a little bit more serious and not a caricature.
We should walk through the plot because I think like there's a lot of stuff that like, so the movie starts, he's clearly like an ex like special forces guy or something. Living.
It starts with killing 3 people with.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So there's 3 murders that we don't understand what is going on. And then it cuts to which also like 3 badass murders. To this day I always remember the garbage. I feel bad for the fucking guy taking his garbage out and getting killed.
Yeah,
he just stayed in the house. He wouldn't have gotten killed.
That's also very suspect. Okay, let's break that down. It's the opening scene of the movie. The idea is we're gonna kill this guy by driving a garbage truck around his neighborhood on a day,
up all of the garbage
on a day when it's not garbage day. If the first line of the movie is garbage, it's Tuesday.
Maybe they changed the schedule.
Yeah, the implication is this guy was like, wow, I can't believe the garbage truck is here. So the idea that just driving the garbage truck around is going to elicit this guy to come out of his house, and then when he does, shoot him point blank. I mean, what if he never came out? What if this guy doesn't care about taking his garbage out? I mean, then plan B? What do you...
Try again on Thursday.
I mean, legitimately...
What if he's a normal person who's like, all right, shit, I'll just have to put this out the next garbage day.
Right.
And not run out of my bed.
Yeah, and he's got a hot girlfriend who's in it for like 2 seconds. But whoever she is, she's a babe. Don't leave your bed.
And then Bill Duke decides to steal a car by murdering the car salesman.
Yeah.
And driving it through a plate glass window. There's no way that there would be any police suspicion. If you're going to steal a car, that's the one the cops are going to be looking for. The one that murdered a guy.
Yeah, he meant to murder that guy. That was another guy. Like, that was one of the special forces guys. Yeah, that was the whole thing. Which is another ridiculous thing because his plan to murder this guy was to run him over with the car. If the guy steps out of the way, like, mission failed. And instead, because they rattle off 3 names of like the murders or the people that were murdered, and the third one's Bennett, who's obviously
surprise, still alive.
Surprise. Yeah.
You know what's interesting is at the time, since this was my first time seeing the movie, I didn't quite get that the objective was to kill the car dealership guy in the beginning.
I didn't get it till just this moment
because
I didn't realize it until right now.
You've seen it 500 times, but I just thought he was stealing the car, but you're right. They do explain that the 3 people he killed, there was a reason, and they were part of the special forces. So, what a fortunate sequence of events for that guy that the car dealership, the car salesman, put his life on the line, threw his body in front of a car.
For a Cadillac.
Mean, of course that's going to happen. Yeah,
that's excellent branding.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of like,
that's true actually.
There was a lot of the 80s had a lot of brutal murders of seemingly innocent guys.
Yeah.
Like RoboCop when the guy when they're testing the machine and it murders the guy in the office building. Like
that's a great scene.
Those scenes like remind me of each other. It's always like it's horrific because it seems like it's like a regular work environment, and then all of a sudden a regular dude in a suit is getting murdered in a very strange, not normal way.
That's similar with the mall scene. We're jumping ahead, but like just those cops who were like I'm forgetting her name, the stewardess.
Ray Don Chong.
Yeah, I know that's her her actual name, but
I don't know what her name in the movie is.
Her last name,
so we're gonna go
her
with
last
the
name
stewardess.
is Chong. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Realize that. So the stewardess is the one who set the cops on Arnold and created this whole fiasco.
Yes.
And then created this whole scene. And then these cops are being murdered in like broad daylight. Like I think there were 5 different cops that died like in the mall.
They're mall cops.
Yeah. But that's, that was a hell of a series of events. And that's just like, you're snapping, it's over and you're back on. But like those were brutally murdered innocent bystanders, if you will.
So to get back to the order, like we find Arnold. He's
you
living
could set
in the
this
woods.
story up in 2 sentences.
Yeah. So he's living in the woods. His daughter is Alyssa Milano. She gets kidnapped.
Really? I didn't know that. I couldn't
serious?
tell. I couldn't tell it was her.
That's Alyssa Milano. She gets kidnapped. It turns out his old special forces buddies are the ones that are trying to lure him back into doing a job. I guess is a blackmail, which also doesn't make sense.
So he was in special forces. He was responsible for overthrowing this guy of some Latin American country. I don't know if they actually said the country.
I think it's a made-up country, yeah.
Yeah, and so then that president was in place. And so now the whole plot is to really, I guess, stick it to him and ruin and besmirch him. He's the one who's going to get close to that president and kill him so that the other guy can, I guess, get back his power. So it was like a personal thing about like Commando, John Matrix being the one to go there versus like, I guess, Bennett killing him or something.
Yeah, so the whole movie is him, like he very quickly figures out wherever in the world his daughter could possibly be. He figures out immediately that she's on an island.
Well,
and so the
how?
whole movie.
How?
All right. Well, because first he has to jump off of an airplane.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
we have to.
So if we're doing the plot, which is another one of like just 5 different things, which are like, how did this work? He murdered the guy, and the guy's
First thing, he murders the guy sitting next to him in coach.
But the hat doesn't fall off for an 11-hour flight. Phenomenal. No turbulence, nothing. And he goes to the back, and the woman stops him, and he's like, I'm air sick. And then she just lets him go. All right.
Air sick, yeah.
Yeah, and then he goes and opens like this cage with like dogs barking and just walks right by. Like, would that not alert other people? Like, hey, there's an open door with dogs barking back here. But whatever. So then he rips through, gets on the plane like tire, and he's just nonchalantly holding on. I was watching this with Jess, my fiance, and I'm like, hey, that plane's going 300 miles an hour. It's just a ridiculous premise.
And he jumps and he lands by some like weeds and some
like a
water.
marsh.
And it immediately cuts to him. It's the same way the car accident where they hit the telephone pole. It immediately cuts to him safely sitting.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
I mean, he falls like 100 feet. It's not a small thing.
But this is why this is a perfect action movie, because the movie is just his single-minded. He has to save his daughter, and he has a time limit to do it.
Right. It's like basically Taken. Like
that. Basically when the plane lands on the island, they're going to realize that Arnold escaped. So he has the duration of the flight to find his daughter.
He has 11 hours, which is a good element of this movie.
Yeah. And the movie is just him single-mindedly, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get my daughter.
Correct.
But I mean, think like just even like, I don't know, maybe that was like a badass thing at the time that like he could set his watch with like a countdown, and then they have like
they made a point of showing the watch.
Right? Yeah, but like even that beep like countdown, you're just like, oh shit, this is it. Like
it was innovative back in the day. Yeah.
So, but that was amazing. And then he somehow runs through the airport runway, whatever, and finds Sully, through the crowd wearing that amazing Sully suit at the payphone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so Sully is being a creep to this, like, I guess she's, well, I thought she was just black, like full
she
black.
She is, you know who she is, Alex? She's
who
Tommy Chong's daughter.
Really?
Yeah, so she is black, and Tommy Chong is Chinese. And
is he Chinese? I always thought he was just like a white guy that was like a stoner.
So she, like, watching this movie again.
Man, I'm fucking Asian, dude.
Ray Don Chong is in this movie is like my platonic ideal of the perfect woman.
I know you.
Light-skinned black girl, but not even just that. She's like,
that is a big part of
she's
it,
very emotional at first, but Arnold, as like the alpha male, gets her to calm down and do what he wants her to do, and then she turns out to be a fucking badass. When the chips are down, she really pulls through.
Well, she's the real victim in this story.
Why is that platonic? So Do you want to just be her really good friend?
No, I'm saying like in like what Plato is describing like the perfect.
Yeah, he's talking about Plato. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
But everyone in the world
relationship-wise,
hold on.
a smaller
Rob,
brain than Peter.
No. Everyone in the world thought he meant platonic because
Yeah.
Peter talks in these fucking ancient classical literary terms that I
like as in like
always
the
fly over
perfect
my head.
ideal, like the
Yeah.
ancient Greek like philosophical ideal of a female partner that you would want.
of a man and a female. Yeah.
She looked just like the ancient Greeks. Perfect.
Yeah.
Wait, what is it? Oh, no. I was gonna say she looked. I thought you were saying she looked like something. No, she looked like she was a. Radon Chong had a nice little career there for a while in the '80s.
I swear I
And
thought you
then-
were going to say a nice little ass. I
She-
swear I thought that's what you were going to say.
She's sexy. She
Yes.
famously she discovered Chris Pratt.
Really?
It's a weird story. He was a waiter at a restaurant in Hawaii, and he waited.
was?
Yeah, he waited.
What
on,
was he doing there?
He was like a layabout. He was like living out of a van. I remember famously this story. He was working as a waiter at a restaurant. It might have been, like, to be honest, it might have been Bubba Gump Shrimp, Honolulu, or something like that. And Radon Chong was his, like, he waited on her, and she thought that he was funny, and she put him in a movie. And that's what started his acting career.
Yeah, she thought that he was funny.
Listen, I don't want to think impure thoughts about Radon.
Piping her. Dude.
And now he's married to Arnold Schwarzenegger's like.
Oh, that's
daughter?
right.
Like
Who?
how ridiculously full circle is that? Right?
Wow.
Isn't he-
He just married Arnold's daughter,
Yeah, he divorced
Anna Faris.
Anna Faris, and then I think he married Schwarzenegger's daughter.
I
That's
didn't know he was
correct.
married to Swar. Wow.
So if it wasn't for that interaction of Bubba Gump Shrimp, he doesn't get famous and marry Radon's co-star. That's pretty.
That's a pretty wild story,
fantastic.
Peter.
That's how Hollywood works, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like I said, Bill Duke is. I mean, if you watch Predator, he's amazing in Predator. He has one scene in this movie Mandy that came out 2 years ago with Nicolas Cage that I fucking love. He's just one of those guys like you get like little bits of him, but he's so fucking good. And David Patrick Kelly is amazing. David Patrick Kelly is in John Wick. That's when I saw him in John Wick, I'm like, this movie fucking rules. He's the guy who, when John Wick kills all the people in his house and he calls for cleaning, he's the head cleaning guy
Okay.
in the original John Wick. But he's been around forever. He did a movie that I tell everybody about that no one has seen. It's called Dreamscape, and it's Randy Quaid. It's basically Inception before Inception. So Randy Quaid and David Patrick Kelly are able to enter dreams, but Dennis Quaid is doing it for good, and David Patrick Kelly is evil. And so they're literally fighting in other people's dreams. So they had none of the technology that Inception had, but the plot is actually much better than Inception's plot. It's a fucking amazing. If they had the 2010s technology, then that movie would be like considered all time fucking amazing. As it is, it's still pretty great.
Prime for a remake. That's
And then
what
you
that
have, I mean, Radon Chong, I fucking love. And then Dan Hedaya is the bad guy, is the dictator, who's an amazing fucking actor.
That was just like, I recognize this bad guy face.
Yes.
That's what that
You know
instant
where
reaction was.
You know where you would recognize him from? He's the dad in Clueless.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I
But
recognize.
he's done a million.
Oh yeah.
He's one of those guys that's been in a million things. He's in the Coen brothers' very first movie. This movie called Blood Simple, which I love too. But he's one of those guys that's been around forever. And he's not great in this movie, but it's still kind of fun to have him.
There's not much he does.
Yeah.
Just
Just
And then Bennett
bad
is
guy.
Bennett is Vernon Wells, who's an Australian actor who was. This will blow you away, Rob. He's the guy in he's the guy in Road Warrior on the motorcycle.
Yeah, the crazy guy with the blonde
mohawk.
boyfriend. Yeah, that
Yeah.
dies
So
and he goes nuts.
So he played a lot of like sort of homoerotic bad guys in the 80s.
They're
What's
always
so erotic about Bennett? You mean the metal and the chainmail and the
There's
Chainmail
so-
shirt.
What? Can we talk about this? Yeah. What was
It
the
was
thinking behind
so
his
laugh
character?
out loud bad.
Yeah, it's really bad at the end, dude.
And you know what? And listen, I'm not the thinnest of the Guarracis, if you will, and this guy just like has a paunch
Yeah.
under the chainmail. Like if he was gonna be like Arnold Jr., maybe this outfit would have worked. But if your thighs are rubbing together while you're walking in leather pants, like
Yeah.
you're like not wearing the right outfit.
No, he was a tubby kid who was supposed to be like
Just
this
equivalent.
warrior.
Yeah.
And he was like at the end, the acting and the script were so atrocious. Like it combined to create this like I was like out of my body. I couldn't believe what I was watching. What is that line he says? Like, I can kill you. I'm going to get rid of the gun. It's like, wait, why would he do that?
John, what? John, I'm going to kill you, John.
Yeah. I don't need this gun. Yeah.
What is he doing? Like, what was any of that? What were the motivations for any of that?
The thing that's funny about funny about this time period is that like Arnold and Stallone as like the bodybuilder body was very unique to them. So
they were like the only people, yeah.
So even like if you look at like Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon or Kurt Russell in these early movies, like they're just like skinny cut guys.
Yeah.
So there was no bad guy that looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger then. But now like every fucking now Ben Stiller is more jacked than Kurt Russell was in the fucking 80s. It's weird. That was
now Ben Stiller's doing roids for like Meet the Parents 4 or whatever. Like, why do they all do roids? All actors do roids now. It's crazy.
Because it's a shortcut, and they're not playing competitive sports.
That's true.
Well, and look at Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt got famous as a paunchy guy in a sitcom, and now he's a fucking jacked action star.
He's not even that jacked anymore, though.
He really
I haven't seen him in a little while, but
yeah.
But there's a lot like. The movie is this is a fun like
oh my god, so much fun.
Schwarzenegger is like very charming. He's very funny, and I think
he's young. I think like
his one-liners.
Like he's got a lot of one-liners. He's funny. Can we talk about? I just want to view this from just we've mentioned her, but just the true victim of this story is the woman who just from the start of the movie is just dragged into this by this creepy man who what's his name again, the suit, the guy with the awesome suit.
Sully.
Yeah. He is just creeping on her, not leaving her alone, follows her to her car, and like creepily is like, I need to fuck you, or whatever. And then he does let her go. She gets in her car, and then immediately Schwarzenegger's like taking the door off her car. He's like, you have to believe me. You must believe me. And it's like, I get that we're following the hero of the story. We're following Arnold. But I mean, he's a complete monster in this. He puts her in harm's way. There's fucking gun fights multiple times where she could have died for no reason. I mean, I get he's putting his daughter first, but it's just like... It doesn't make sense why she's so happy to be along for this.
No, I mean, you're spot on. Like, he could have explained the whole daughter part while they're chasing the guy. He didn't do that until after the whole cop like debacle. Like, could have maybe won her to your side, and instead he was just kind of an asshole to her, like forced these commands. So yeah, why wouldn't she go to the cops for after that nightmare half hour she just had with her kidnapper? Right?
I know. It's crazy.
That's what I like about Arnold. Like that's like that kind of man doesn't exist. Like he does no emotion, no explanation. He just takes charge. And like back then,
why
it was
is
like
that
kind
good?
of.
I'm sorry.
It was kind of understood.
I get it. It's like a Mystique thing, but
it was kind of understood that you just like that guy. He's not going to be like a whiny bitch about stuff. He's like,
there's no time to explain. You can't like take your cell phone out and make a phone call and like get the exposition. It's just like. Here's this guy and he's not talking. So
I remember this is a weird like this is a weird tangent, but I remember reading a psychology article about PTSD in war, and they found that the guys that got PTSD weren't the ones that saw the worst shit. It was the ones that had the least amount of control over their environment. So for example, if you're a sniper, you didn't have PTSD, but if you were like stationed where there were explosions going on, and you're always like waiting for the next explosion. Those are the people that tend to have really bad PTSD. And like watching her try to fly the plane, and she's like, we can't do this. And Schwarzenegger just going, just taking control. That's the guy like that never had, like he's like free of trauma and free of emotion. He's just like, I'm single-minded and nothing is going to stand in my way.
Yeah. So,
and that kind of like, we've kind of bred that out of us.
I was going to say it was an interesting tidbit because before it was PTSD, it used to be called shell shock.
Yeah.
So maybe that was something with people just being bombed all the time. And
that's where it comes from.
Sure.
Yeah.
From World War II.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, they literally hearing the ringing and shit inside your helmet or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Shell shocked. I'm pretty sure
I
it's
think
something
so.
like that. Yeah.
All right, so we jump ahead in scene because now we're talking about the seaplane, and I almost wanted to just get into that fun part. But
Yeah,
I mean, we've been going all over the place.
Wow.
Basically, what you have to understand if you've never seen this movie is you should watch it. It's only 90 minutes, but also
It's amazing.
It's Arnold going after his kid who's been kidnapped, and they're doing it because they want him to carry out like an assassination. But he knows that if he carries out the assassination, they're just going to kill his daughter anyway. So he's got to dupe them and get away, and he has about 11 hours because they think he's on a plane. And in that 11 hours, all of these scenes that we've been talking about happen, and eventually he is on an island.
He's in a black Speedo. Yeah.
Yes, and he kills 100 people at once.
Yeah.
Blows up 2 buildings. It's wild. Yeah.
I can't use a circular saw to this day without thinking about him throwing the circular saw blade at the
that guy
in the shed. I swear to God, every time I see a circular saw, it's the first thing I think of.
Yeah. So Alex, this whole series of murders is him trying to basically play detective with one piece of information and perfectly solving it every time, right?
And he never makes a misstep.
So he before he kills Sully, he finds a motel key that just happens to have the name of the motel. Boom! Now he can kill Sully. Move on. He kills the other guy, and then they check his glove box, and there's a receipt for gas to fill a plane. Boom. Now they're finding the seaplane. Like, it all makes sense if everything goes your way perfectly every time.
That one is the biggest stretch to me. They find a receipt in the glove box for,
and she's
like, I think this is where they buy parts for a plane.
Yeah,
and he's like, we're going.
She happens to be getting her pilot's license, and she knows that that's where they get fuel for the planes. Like, that was it.
So that means that's where my daughter is. I don't understand the logical leap.
Gotta do it. No, that's where they find the island because he used latitude.
Longitude. That made me laugh in the middle of you guys saying something else. If you remember me burst out laughing, it's because I remember Arnold pointing his fat finger at the map, going longitude, and I had the subtitles on when I was watching it, so it's just like a single word, and it really is out of place. It doesn't help.
Now we know. Yeah. So pretty much all those awesome scenes, he puts together the breadcrumbs. Then he realizes he has to go to this island, so he has to go shopping, which entails driving a bulldozer through like the storefront of a army surplus store and stocking up on all the badassest gear like imaginable.
He doesn't even have to look for the bulldozer because it's just parked in the parking lot of a freestanding army surplus store that happens to have every weapon known to mankind.
Amazing.
Well, that store. Do you guys play Grand Theft Auto, the video game? Have you ever played the video game?
The original,
Liberty City on PlayStation 2. So they had this thing called, I think it's called Ammunition. And it's a chain of where you buy guns in Grand Theft Auto. It's called Ammunition. It's in all the games. And in the newer iterations of Grand Theft Auto, it's literally this store. I mean,
really?
It's like the same logo with the patriotic flag, and like you walk in and you could buy a rocket launcher, you could buy a gun for a helicopter, you could just buy whatever you want. And I mean, I could imagine myself watching this movie at 8 years old and going, "Oh yeah, those stores must exist."
Yeah,
but now
where do I get the grenades? Where's the grenade store?
You just reminded me because like just like
Crazy.
Quicksand, plastic explosives was a big part of my childhood of things that
Quicksand.
Yeah,
it was in everything.
It was in everything.
Have you ever encountered it?
It doesn't exist. I would actually read up on what to do in case I fell into quicksand because I was afraid I might have to face that. Not one time. It hasn't come up once.
A guinea from Jersey, just worried about
just
quicksand.
in case.
One person heard about quicksand and they incorporated it into every cartoon and movie. And
it was
like this prevalent thing in the real world.
When I was a kid, when we watched TV when it came on, there were like cliffhanger episodes. There were to be continued episodes.
Oh yeah.
So it was the end of the first episode of the to be continued was the Magnum PI is in the quicksand. The episode goes black. It says to be continued, and now you got to wait a week to find out what happens. And the best part is that every single one of those 2-part episodes, they resolved the thing in the first 5 minutes of the second episode, and then the rest of the episode had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah,
it happened 100 times.
Yeah.
So my favorite thing too, you reminded me just now, is whenever they're like getting the gear ready, like they're doing the explosives, they just switch it on and off again real quick just to check that the switch works.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
But I think it was like the sound effect appeal, right? It's like cycling the shotgun unnecessarily or whatever. Like it's just all of this interacting with your gear, because if you actually did what you're supposed to do, it's just like boring. Like you don't do anything until you actually have to use it. You only have to cycle the gun one time and then it can shoot for the, like the whole clip. And it's just like, everyone just wants to like see the, the shotgun get pumped again.
But that's what makes this stuff fun. I mean, that's what like makes all the John Wick movies fun. And like, because then they have to just like go, like I was just rewatching John Wick 3, and he's like basically building a gun out of antique gun parts in the one scene to get one shot off. Like the scene doesn't make any sense, but it's fucking awesome because it's John Wick building a gun. And again, this movie and First Blood Part 2 really like started that. Like they paved the way for like when you think about the original Terminator, which I fucking love and I actually prefer to T2. Like Kyle Reese shows up naked, he has to steal clothes. And he gets one shotgun, and like that's all he needs to take on, a monster from the future that's unstoppable. As you go in time, like they always have to like constantly up the stakes. But like when you get right down to it, like it's just one guy with a gun chasing another guy with a gun, and that's why these movies are timeless, because you can just jump right back in and watch this, and you can laugh about like like look at the. He had a digital watch instead of an iPhone for fuck. He didn't set the timer on his iPhone. Yeah. But at the same time, it's just such like a pure like man versus man thing that'll never get dated. That's what I love about this shit.
90 minutes at the edge of my seat. It's amazing.
Yeah, the movie never stopped. Like you could have made a 2-hour and 10-minute Commando,
which would suck. Which would not be good.
With a diner scene, where he cries to Ray Shaw.
I mean, literally, though.
Being in 2020 and knowing what we know about how everybody ended up, my question also is, was Alyssa Milano worth it? Would you do this?
Oh, for Alyssa Milano? I mean...
Because even then, at the very end, when he
does end up doing a couple of good movies.
She did a couple, like Poison Ivy 2 or something like that. She did some like softcore stuff.
No, I don't mean porn. I mean,
no, it was like
actual
not
movies.
Porn, but it was like... real stuff.
What are you talking about? I don't know. I'm not old enough, I don't think, to know.
I know the name Alyssa Milano, but I couldn't rattle off like movies she's been in. I just knew that she grew up to be someone.
Wasn't she in fucking? Am I thinking of the wrong person now?
You're probably thinking of Winona Ryder.
No. Hold on, I'm going on Alyssa Milano's IMDb.
She did the TV show Charmed, which is where she met Rose McGowan. So that's their connection. She was Who's the Boss? She was the daughter of Who's the Boss, which is really the biggest thing that she did. Oh,
I'm being very stupid. I was thinking, for some reason, I guess when you mentioned Clueless earlier, I was thinking Alicia Silverstone. Why was I thinking about her? Yeah. I think Clueless is great, so I was about to be
it's a great movie.
It was worth it for that, but...
She does, at the end of this movie, when Arnold hugs her and he's like, and the general's like, you're going to come back, and he's like, I'll never come back. She gives this smirk.
Yeah.
Like this self-satisfied, like I have daddy wrapped around my finger. I wanted Arnold to throw her in the fucking bay at the end of the movie.
Jenny, why?
She's not like an innocent little girl. She's watched her dad murder countless people.
And she has and
she throw a pipe through a guy's chest.
She likes watching it.
It's not really like... an innocent girl that gets ice cream, have the movie started.
It is pretty cool that she they give her something to do, like her figuring out how to like turn the doorknob into a fucking pick to open up the wall. Like that's pretty fucking cool. But yeah, she if I had to spend the rest of my life like living in the mountains raising her, and the alternative was to like lead a coup on a tropical island, I'd be like, all right, I don't like murder and stuff, but I'm not gonna fucking live with this bitch for the rest of my life.
You missed it though. Like he's obviously did that for like 25 years.
Oh he's burnt out.
He's a man who's killed as many people as he needed to kill, and they brought him back to do more killing.
Which is also the premise of every amazing fucking. I mean, that's just John Wick. That's like every one of those movies is the same fucking guy.
That's exactly, and all of them are like, all right, I did that for a very long time, and I'm very good at it, and now I just want some peace and quiet. So they are not you, Pete. Like, Pete, you did not do that for a very long time.
I feel like I missed that part of my life. Like,
that
could be my post-corona fucking career.
That's why no, X people from your squad are trying to kidnap your daughter to get you to complete a very specific job.
Where did I go wrong? Fuck.
Yeah, eating chipwiches.
Not working out as much as Arnold.
That was it. That was your shot.
Not spending my 80s getting jacked.
Could have been at the Jersey Shore. I'm trying to think if there was anything. So they get to the island, ridiculous, a billion kill scenes. The fight scene with Bennett, where he gets thrown into the electrified fence and then springs off with like Hulk speed. He does a high kick and kicks Arnold in the face, and it's just amazing. Like, here's a guy who does not have that in his wheelhouse, and now he's got the force of electricity surging through his body. And he's just like raining down punches and throws in a high kick, and it was just
it's hilarious to watch like a moderately out of shape guy, like just out of his element. He's getting supercharged. You're not gonna win, dude.
Also,
I would look worse in that outfit. So it's like
also a weirdly
it's not a flattering outfit.
80s thing.
Yeah,
that's weirdly 80s where somebody would get electrocuted and then come back stronger than like that happened in First Blood Part 2 too. And like I feel like there was horror movies.
Stupid.
There was like
it's just very stupid and not understanding electricity at all.
And actually, now that I think about it, and Lethal Weapon too. Lethal Weapon, fucking Mel Gibson gets electrocuted. It's like one of those things that just doesn't happen anymore. That for whatever reason, for 5 years, everybody was getting fucking electrocuted.
It's like even you brought up like the plastiques or like the mortars. Like he placed like one on the outside of the building, and then the entire building blows up from the inside.
I thought I missed
different times.
I thought I missed something. He places one on the side of one building, and then they show like 4 different angles where like 3 buildings simultaneously explode.
I think he placed more than one, but still, and I think this maybe is an 80s trope. So Pete, I guess chime in or correct me, but like it's. Instead of like showing the whole scene tracking and blowing up, it's the one explosion showed 15 times from 15 different angles, and you just keep getting that explosion. So I think it was the same building. They just were like,
show it again.
Yeah,
show it again.
You're right. Yeah,
they figured out how to get a literal. I mean, no pun intended. A lot of bang for their buck. Where they cut a lot of fat out of these movies, and it was just to like give the audience fucking like an adrenaline rush. Yeah. So it was literally like cut to something that makes the audience go wow, to cut to another thing that makes the audience go wow. Yeah. And they just eliminated everything else. And again, that's what I'm saying. Like these movies were produced. It was literally, it's like, all right, we have to do the explosions now. It wasn't about like the plot or anything like that. It was like, and everybody was trying to top like each other. Like, I mean, it's like, that's where like when T2 came out in 91, everyone was like, whoa, it's like, how do you top the original Terminator? It's like, well, you have a liquid Terminator. Yeah. And it was literally like James Cameron had the idea for that. And it was the moment the technology was available, he made that movie. Like Cameron is like a visionary in that way. And then even with Schwarzenegger, it's like the way he cocked the rifle by twisting the shotgun by twisting it around. Yeah. It's like, oh, that's a brand new thing you hadn't seen before in a movie. I mean, that's what's fun about these movies is they had to figure out how to do something that the audience hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
Right.
And they did it for like, there was like a 5-year window where they did it. They did the shit out of it. And then they tried to do it with like Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal, but those were like facsimiles of the real guys. And then it just kind of went away until, I mean, and that's, again, like John Wick was really kind of, to me, a return to form. Mm-hmm. Plus also adding in like the Asian elements and like the gun fu and all that stuff that you hadn't seen in a Western movie. So I think it's, you can make fun of it and say that it's simplistic, whatever, but it's also very creative because they're having to invent new ways to do things that audiences haven't seen before.
And that part I recognize, like right now it's like I'm suspending my disbelief. But when I was first watching this, I wasn't suspending anything because I hadn't watched all these other modernized movies with like either parodying these types of things that came later or, correcting that. And then me realizing it, like I've never been in a shootout or like a war with like, a Latin dictator, yet I'm like pointing out like, well, that's unrealistic. That's unrealistic. That's unrealistic. Like it's only because of, I've seen all the other shit since this movie came out in 1985, right? If I was, fresh faced, teenager in 85, I mean, everything would be realistic potentially and just fucking amazing. I mean, it's still amazing. I'm just laughing about the I don't know.
It adds an element to it that might not be there when you're a teenager watching it in the 80s. It does. It makes it campy and funny, and I mean, maybe it was like that for anyone that knew about war at all. I mean, there were people who went to war that saw Commando, and I mean, the idea that was realistic.
No, but I think there's a little bit of like America, fuck yeah, when you watch this. Like,
sure.
No soda. Guys who are soldiers,
no irony. This is just a pure nationalistic.
And also, like, to me, like Predator and Terminator are like just
banging the table, Peter. just
sorry.
fuck it. No, it's all good. I actually enjoy it. You've been doing it all episodes.
I feel like I'm like defending my PhD thesis.
That was the double hand bang the table.
I want to be like in a debate where I'm just like debating Arnold Schwarzenegger. But like to me, Predator and Terminator are like just legit great movies. But this movie is, like I said, this is like the prototype for the action movie, and it's so much fun. It's like Arnold is like so charming. I'm watching him on fucking Instagram now. Yeah. He's like he has that, like, Bill Burr has that great bit about.
I love
like,
that bit. Rob, do you know that bit?
I think I might need to hear a little bit more. I feel
our
like
autistic comedian brains just synced up. Like we've seen that special 1,000 times. We know exactly like word for word. It's the bit where Bill Burr talks about how they took down a great man in Arnold, like when Arnold got caught cheating on his wife. Yeah. He describes Arnold's life in stage by stage and how it would compare. So I don't know, Peter, if you remember anything.
Yeah, he's basically saying like this man he's succeeded at everything he's ever put his mind to. Yes. He wanted to be governor of California. He wanted to be an action star. He wanted to be rich and famous. Why would he not think it was okay to bang his maid and get her pregnant? Like right. He literally he everything in his life told him that whatever he wants, he can get if he puts his mind to it.
He's like, why don't you go to Austria, become famous for working out, become a movie star without learning how to speak the language, bang marry into royalty, which is basically what he did. He's like, and then you think you wouldn't get away with having sex with your maid. Yeah, it's... I mean, the way Bill does it is amazing, but it's all facts too. It's like factual. Like Arnold's life is unbelievable. Like,
I mean, if I would have had the '80s that Arnold had, I probably would be a different person than I am.
Probably,
yes, a little bit. Yeah.
He
seems oddly well adjusted to me. Like he could have turned out to be a much worse dude. Yeah, he's like doing a lot of charity and stuff. Yeah,
he's always been a nice guy. That's the thing about Arnold. You know what I mean? Like he's never been like. You would think, he did the roids, and he did those like 70s roids, like where it was like people would get like crazy roid rage or just be like animals. And Arnold was always just kind of a nice guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's something there's something cynical about him and very like calculating, but I still like it. You know what I mean? Like he's a little.
He's
cold.
A bad person.
No, I don't think he's a bad person at all. Yeah. But I think that he decided.
Though.
Yeah, sure.
There was stuff back in the day with him like messing with other.
But that's funny though. He was like a troll.
I know. Exactly.
Because Lou Ferrigno was kind of like. Have you ever watched Pumping Iron? I've seen it like 500,000 times. My dad used to watch it we used to laugh at it because, I mean, Arnold obviously has that famous line of like, I love the pump. And he's talking about pumping his muscles up. He's like, the pump is better than coming. And it's like a crazy line. It's like the weirdest
I'm coming
thing.
All day long, I'm coming.
Coming day and night. And he's like 22 years old, just jacked out of his fucking mind. And he's making fun of Lou Ferrigno. And Lou Ferrigno's got like a speech impediment. And he's kind of like... I don't know. I don't want to say
he's like, deaf. I thought he was retarded. He's just deaf. So he can. No, it's not.
Yeah. No, I know. He
can't speak well because
he's like, he's like lifting weights, making noises, and Arnold's like making fun of him in the documentary. It's pretty brutal, but he also like got into Lou Ferrigno's head, and because he knew Ferrigno was big. He was, he was competition. And Arnold got in Ferrigno's head. You could watch it rewatch that documentary. He's conniving and competitive. But again, I think he was more like a troll. Like he knew what he had to do to win, but it was also like very funny to him, Like,
but that's where that same kind of. I feel like if you grow up like in a very cold environment and like maybe like you don't have a loving like family, whatever, and you're just like I just have to do what I want to do on my own. A lot of those people end up. It's like a little bit sociopathic where you're like nothing is going to get in my way. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get what I want. And that's literally what he did. You hope that by the time they reach 60, then they take all that money and fame and use it for good, which is what he did.
Yeah.
You know, you can't really complain about that.
At the time period he was getting famous too, though. Like that was like America, rah rah. Like America's, you know, I mean, say what you want present day, but like land of opportunity. Here's this perfect example of an immigrant coming to this country and being successful. Like that's the American dream. Like he was all of that, you know, like, and I don't know. So yeah, well, I could.
He held public office as just a complete. He can't even speak just everything that was against
California. He can't even say
the name of his own state. Yeah, California. It sounds like it's such a struggle for him to just speak any word. I
love him so much. I bet he accentuates the accent on purpose. At this point, you've been living in America for 45 years. Like, that accents tend to mellow out.
Yeah, like our father. What are you?
I know. What the fuck are you talking? My nonna still speaks like.
I know, but she
still says like she uses like the wrong verbs for every like.
But they were probably surrounded by other people who spoke like them. Like he's been around people speaking correct English for 45 fucking years.
I don't know. I think if you want to make that argument, maybe once upon a time he saw like The Simpsons making fun of him, and he just decided to like really ratchet it up and do The Simpsons.
There might be something about it.
Because that's it. Like, it's a caricature, almost like accent. But if he's really authentic, then
he's still like this movie brings me back like more so than maybe because I hadn't watched it in a long time, and then in the last year I watched it a bunch. This movie really brings me back to that time in my childhood. It was just about imagination. Do you know what I mean? It was just about fantasy. Like I watched these movies because I wanted to like fantasize about being fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah. You know? And that's what's fun about going back and especially, and we've talked about this a bunch on the podcast, especially during lockdown, I find myself more wanting to be nostalgic about stuff. Like I don't want to watch shit that makes me feel fucking sad right now. I'd rather go back and watch something like fun from my childhood, you know?
Yeah. No,
that's your temperament too, in general. Though you don't want to watch some self-wallowing, look how sad this movie is type movie. You're not really that into that.
But no, it's so funny. I'll never going back and hearing the "Kill You Last" for the first time since.
It's weird.
It was fun. You know what it also did? It reminded me of. It reminded me of when Alex and I first got together and started talking about doing this podcast, and I had this idea for like what I wanted the intro to sound like, and I was like, oh, that's easy. I'll just rip stuff off of YouTube and just like that moment where he he played it for me for the first time, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't even know that was a thing you could do, you know. Yeah. And so for weeks, all I did was just
in like an hour sitting next to you.
I know, and for weeks before we even really started, I would just listen to the 1 minute clip over and over again on my phone, and it just made me so happy that we fucking did that. And so going back and watching
all of us, and I've listened to it too, just like listening to the intro.
Oh wow, yeah, man, you literally mouthed it to me. You were like, we need the Thing bass line, and we need and you just told me the clips, and we just, I mean, it was your vision, man. So.
Yeah, I love. There's a couple lines in Lethal Weapon that I've always loved. There's a couple lines that fucking Stallone and Schwarzenegger have said that I've always loved. So I was like,
I think I made you put the Pesci one in there. I thought,
I wasn't crazy about the Pesci one, but it works.
It works. And then I also put the, I don't know if you wanted this, but I put the Rocky 3 crying. It's an amazing cry. I mean, Stallone gets a lot of shit for his acting, but that cry, that man is power crying. He is. There's no way he wasn't sobbing in that scene. I mean. Unbelievable.
I don't even know if I wonder how many people pick up on that.
It's wild how hard he's crying.
No, I'm saying pick up that's what that sound is. I don't
think people know. Yeah, it's hard. There's a lot of shit buried in there, but that's the fun stuff.
No, I told you I had somebody reached out to me from England and was like, "Hey, I'm a big fan of the podcast. I love that you use the Thing bass line in the intro." I was like, this is a guy that I can fucking talk to.
A lot of people have told me that, actually. That thing, when people recognize the Thing, that our theme song comes from the Thing, I'm always like, all right, they're gonna like the podcast, you know, like, and I've heard that a lot from whether it be comics or just people that I know listen. But there's a lot of fun stuff buried in there. I wonder if people would know. We also had to do that thing where we had to cut up the Lethal Weapon clips because there was too much dialogue. and it wouldn't have fit. I don't know if you even remember this, but it was
Yeah,
some
we
light
had to make it
editing
shorter.
work. Yeah. It wasn't, it was fun. I remember doing that. But look, I mean, we have Rob on here. This is like the whole reason we started, basically. I mean, like, how long did we talk about doing Commando with your brother? Has this
Since
been
the very
I mean,
beginning? It's funny because we claimed it that no one else could do Commando,
Right.
And even this week, somebody asked me if they could do Commando, and I
Yep.
was like,
Well, if
No,
this
bro.
episode sucks, then I guess.
Oh
you
no,
can
this was fun, man.
replace it with the other person.
"It's better than both Dean David episodes."
Oh, shots fired. Dean listened, so
I know. I'm
he's gonna
kidding.
hear
I knew
that.
it. No, I love Dean. I love Dean.
I love Dean too.
But
We had we couldn't release one of them. It was so bad. All right, I'm done. He literally didn't release.
And then he tried to guilt himself onto us as a third time. I'm like, there's no way that Dean David is going to be the only guy to do 3 fucking episodes of my podcast.
That's so
Amazing.
funny. I love Dean. Dean's
Rob, how do you feel
funny.
about the future of stand-up comedy in New York? We must
Um,
not looking good.
I mean, standing, I don't know, alone, it should be fine, but just with everything else going on in New York, I think is more the concern.
No, that
I mean,
is
you
the
know, my
concern.
opinion, like I don't like going into New York City because of how much of a hassle and a just pain in the ass it is. There's just too many people. So, I feel like some part of your stand-up comedy crowd is like on the weeknights is like people that are there and want to be there, not like traveling in. So if New York City starts trending to have a lot less people wanting to go into the city or be there, maybe, stand-up's healthy everywhere else outside of New York City too. I just feel like, I don't know.
Yeah, none of us know that. Like, none of us know what to do because people are like, oh, if I go to Kansas City, I can actually do a show right now, but no one's really sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna. All I know is that when we do look back on all this shit happening right now, there's gonna be so many interesting. Like, there's a lot of details that we can't decipher while we're in it. That we probably like a lot of decisions we should be making that it's just impossible to make. You don't see the options while you're in it, but I mean, slowly we're definitely going to open up. It can't last forever, as much as people want it to. Some people. So some people want it to, and that look, whatever. Have your opinion, but even you, if you're one of those people, you have to admit that eventually life will get back to normal. I mean, it has to.
Yeah. What's normal? I'm someone who worked in an office 5 days a week.
Me too.
And I've shown that I can be just as productive, if not
Same.
more productive.
More productive.
Yeah.
But I want to work from home. I don't know about you. I don't want to go to an office.
I know, but when we talk about going back to the new normal, like, I think some of these things were going to take longer to like actually come to fruition because the old guard didn't think it could happen. And now you are forced into an actual real life example. So if I magnify that, like, all right, so how many people were commuting into New York City every day, and then they were already there, and so they wanted to have a social life, so then they go out to dinners in New York City, or they stay for a show, Broadway, whatever. Like, if say 50% of those people are, it's justified that they now don't need to go commuting into New York City, how is New York City ever going to be the normal that we thought it was? Like, as much as I hate it, like, New York City is just the allure of everyone trying to get in there because you have to be there to make it. And now
it's a good point, but
you won't.
It's a good point, and it's definitely going to have long-term effects on New York. But I do think there's enough yes, I don't know what you do specifically, but I work in an office too, and I don't need to be there. I don't know about you. Did you ever need to be there?
There's certain like aspects that I could go to be in person, and I travel to visit like other like work experiences, work sites. But even that could be the percentage where I need to be in person. So I could say very comfortably 90 to 95% of my job, as long as I have an internet connection.
Exactly.
So
but jobs, like a lot of jobs in New York aren't like that. A lot of jobs are small businesses and restaurants and comedians. I mean, I know it doesn't sound like a job, but like, these things can't function without you being there in person. And so there's a lot of New York that has been put on hold that I don't know. I think a good chunk of the office workforce will probably not want to pay the taxes, not want to do the commute, and just work from home if they can.
Well, my concern is that ripple effect.
The ripple effect,
if,
right?
If the office people aren't there, then
Mm-hmm.
do they need as many restaurants? Do they need as many happy hour locations? Like,
probably not.
You know,
well, the dirty little secret about New York is, and I noticed this. I was in the restaurant business for years, and I noticed, like, you know, you come to New York, you get a waitering job so that you can have the flexibility and the money to live in New York to do the other stuff,
to pursue your passion.
And then I became a manager, and so then I was responsible for hiring people, and then all of a sudden, there was nobody good that I could hire. Like, I was working at one of the top restaurants in New York, and I couldn't find somebody to hire. So I was like, where are these people? I don't even think they're moving to New York anymore. And so I think what happened was New York it became this kind of mecca. One, it was a place where poor artists could live. Like, I was watching a little bit of this Bob Dylan documentary, and back then, McDougal Street, it was poor fucking commie folk singers. You know what I mean? You could live in an apartment, and
back when the artists were poor and not living on inheritance.
And now it's what, $3,500 for like a 1-bedroom apartment
down there. Sure, yeah.
So then that attracted like the finance guys, and so now it's the finance bros, whatever you want to call them, that's the economic engine of the city. But those guys want to experience the arts, so they're the ones that go out to eat on a Tuesday night and spend $300 at a restaurant, which enables that artist to be able to live in the city. So yeah, if you eliminate that part of, dude, right now where I live in East Harlem, it might as well be 2019. But you go to Midtown, and Midtown is fucking dead. There's nothing going on.
And that's my point. I'm sure a lot of it will come back because there's a certain prestige that goes with being based in New York. But there could be a significant percentage decline. So say, all Wall Street comes back, even though those people could have been doing their jobs anywhere else in the world, 20 years ago. But there's that prestige. But a lot of other people, if it's advertising or other office jobs that for one reason or another are making people commute 2+ hours a day, unless you want to live in the city, to work there. In the last 8 weeks, those people have just been working from home and have been just as productive, and they haven't had to pay any, if those companies didn't have to have an office building in New York, and they probably could pay, new hires less because it's cheaper to hire talent in New Jersey than New York or whatever. I don't know. And again, it's all speculation, but I just think the wave of working remote for people who can has been on the horizon. And I think it just
tipping.
There was a lot of resistance to it actually being effective. And this forced it into kind of being a proving ground.
Yeah. I know with artists,
good point.
I'm so glad that we have this, and we'll be able to do this for the rest of our lives, no matter where we are physically in the world. But I wouldn't feel connected at all to the community of comedians if I didn't live in New York City and get to know those people from literally just hanging out. And there are guys that I wanted to meet in New York City, and then I opened for them in Pennsylvania. And now we have that connection, so that when I see them on the street in New York City, it's like, hey man, how you doing? That can only happen from actual human interaction, and that's what, I'm glad that I, had the couple of years that I did have in order to get to the point now where I can reach out to somebody and be like, hey man, I would love for you to do my podcast. But that it took years of physically being in a community in order to do that.
No, I get it. Even in my work environment, I think my presence, I've been with the same company for 8 years. And I think that's, benefited me from having that networking and, being around those other people and whoever. Sure. So now it's all right, I already have those relationships. So the remote working is, more feasible. But if I were to start, square one, fresh out of college working remote, I would be intimidated out of my mind and probably flounder a lot with I don't know.
That's a good point. To start faceless and in your own apartment, it's that's not an easy way to move up and make relationships.
It's like being on a college campus, the socializing. It's not just about taking classes and taking tests.
It's 90% the socialization.
So you can listen. I learned a fucking lot of stuff just watching YouTube videos.
Same,
but I wouldn't trade my college experience for the world.
I learned how to do digital advertising from self-taught. I didn't learn a thing about that in school.
I just built my
That's my whole career.
I built my sister 2 elevated garden beds because she sent me a YouTube clip, and then I figured and I'm actually gonna build Rob one next. But no, Rob, I've been looking forward to this for a long time, so I'm glad we're finally able to do this.
Yeah,
this was awesome.
Yeah, likewise. It was nice meeting you, Alex. And
really great meeting you, Rob. I'm happy to do another one. I know you briefly brought up Last of the Mohicans or whatever you want to do. I mean, I think it's great. I think we should have another Guarraci on every now and then.
Yeah.
Are there more Guarracis we can have on?
Yeah.
Could we do a whole fucking family tour?
Yeah. How many tiles can you fit on a Zoom call?
We can do it up to I think 100. Honestly,
it'll just be
like Easter dinner. We just all be yelling at each other.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was just gonna say. The same thing.
I would love that.
It'll just be a regular holiday dinner, just people yelling at each other.
That would be great.
We'll invite my mom, and she can tell the same 5 stories she's told at every family gathering. 4 of them are about Pete, so I love it.
Dude, I heard.
Is Pete a mama's boy?
Or Pete just, I guess, gave my mom the best material. All my material sucked. Not as fun.
The other day, I was with them, and my dad started telling one of her stories about me, and I'm like, son of a bitch! Like, she's gaslit him so much that now he thinks it's his memory.
It's his story.
He's just telling it.
That's very funny.
Yeah, she's the best. You'll have to have her on sometime.
Oh God!
Never air that episode, but it'd be good for you, Alex.
I would love to see it. And
her first thing, she's like, "What, you want to watch the same movie more than once? Why would you watch the same movie more than once?" That's what she says to me.
Yeah.
Albert Brooks is one of my heroes, and he did a movie called Mother, and it's about like him as a successful Hollywood guy moving back in with his mother as an adult after his divorce, and about all the ways that doing that will drive you crazy. And there was an interview, I think it was on NPR, and they said, well, is this really based on your real mother? Like, what part of this is true? And he goes, listen, my mother is lovely. I love her. He goes, for whatever it is, like, she loves me and she supports me, but she doesn't understand why I'm funny. And it's like, and I go, oh my God, that's amazing. That's exactly it. Like, to her, Albert Brooks is her son.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not Albert Brooks, the fucking comedy genius that wrote and directed all these classic movies. It's the guy who, had to ask her to use the car to go out on the weekends.
There is also an aspect of like, she's the central theme of some of your jokes. So like, we all see the comedy. She just was doing what she would have done.
I don't even have to modify stuff. I just repeat verbatim things that she said.
Which is amazing, but hey, it works. So.
It definitely works.
Yeah.
But all right, Rob, man, thanks again for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
You want to plug anything? You want to plug your company or your work?
Yeah, keep buying candy.
Oh yeah, he works for M&M Mars. We should say that.
No, he probably
should. Keep buying sticker bars.
It's okay. I can beep it out. Peter's an idiot.
No, it's.
If
they search my last name, maybe they find me. But no big deal.
It's fine. I mean, I'm sure if we had a problem with Mars suing us, that'd mean good things for us, I think.
Yeah, that's right. You kick the hornet's nest, and then maybe one day they'll sponsor you.
Yeah.
I don't work in that department though.
Goddamn! Now I want M&Ms, and I've been good about not having candy. So.
You should have them.
Well, of course you would say that.
We've got people working hard through this pandemic to make sure that candy's on shelves.
Oh, fuck off!
We want to make sure that America's favorites are there. Is that my plug? Cut all of this. I don't want any of this.
All right, I'll cut it.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, Rob.
Later,
thanks.
Rob. And yeah, I'm just gonna end it here. So, Pete, I'll see you, bud. I gotta run, but that was great.
Man. Thanks for doing it. See you next time.